You know how some people say working nights is easy money? That it's just walking around, staying awake, nothing to worry about? Yeah, well, those people weren't working at Warehouse 47 on 15 March. My name's Mark, and I'm 28 years old. 6 months ago, I had what everyone is calling a mental breakdown at work. That's the official story anyway. Stress-induced psychosis. A hallucination brought on by exhaustion and working too many overnight shifts alone. But I know what I experienced that night. And even though I've been in therapy for 6 months, even though I'm on medication now, even though everyone, including my own psychiatrist, has told me it wasn't real, I still can't shake the feeling that something actually happened on that third floor. The thing is, I don't know anymore. I really don't. And that's the scariest part. But to understand what happened that night, or what I think happened, I need to take you back, way back, to when I first started this job and thought I had everything figured out. I got into security work about 3 years ago. I dropped out of college after my sophomore year because, honestly, I had no idea what I was doing with my life. I was taking general education classes, spending money I didn't have, and working at a Starbucks where my manager was this 22-year-old girl who treated me like I was an idiot. I needed a change, needed something that paid better and didn't involve making frappuccinos for people who'd yell at me because I put too much ice in their drink. A buddy of mine, Dave, was doing security work and he said it was pretty chill. Overnight shift, walk around empty buildings, make sure nothing's on fire or getting stolen. $12 an hour, which was better than what I was making at Starbucks. No degree required, no experience necessary. I'm not going to lie, it sounded perfect for someone like me who had no direction in life. I applied to this security company called Secure Guard Solutions. Terrible name, I know. They hired me basically on the spot because apparently nobody wants to work overnight shifts. Imagine that. They assigned me to Warehouse 47. That's not its real name, but I'm not going to say the actual name because I signed an NDA when they put me on paid leave. The company that owns it is still operating, and my lawyer told me not to use real names, so Warehouse 47. It's this massive 3-story industrial building on the edge of the city's warehouse district. You know the area, where all the big box stores and distribution centers are. Everything looks the same. Concrete and metal and those blue industrial buildings that could be anything. The company that owned my warehouse used to be huge. Back in the 90s and early 2000, they were shipping products all over the country. But like a lot of companies, they started downsizing, outsourcing, automating. By the time I started working there, they were basically a shell of what they used to be. Most of the warehouse sat empty. They kept a small administrative staff that worked during the day, and they still used part of the first floor for some shipping, but that was it. The rest was just empty space they were paying to maintain while they figured out whether to sell the building or try to rent it out. My job was simple: clock in at 11 p.m., walk a patrol route through all 3 floors, hit these sensor pads they had mounted on the walls to prove I was actually doing my rounds and not sleeping in the break room. Try not to fall asleep, clock out at 7 a.m. when the day shift guy showed up. 8 hours, 4 nights a week, Tuesday through Friday. The first floor was fine. That's where the offices were, the loading dock, the break room. It felt normal down there, fluorescent lights humming, that coffee smell that never quite goes away even when the machines are off. Just a regular workplace that happened to be empty. I'd start there every night, check the main entrance, check the loading bay doors, make sure all the offices were locked, hit the sensor pads. The whole first floor took me about 20 minutes. Then I'd head up to the second floor. The second floor was storage. Or it used to be. Now it was just rows and rows of industrial metal shelving, most of it empty. Some of the racks still had old boxes on them, stuff that had been sitting there for years probably. The lights were dimmer up there. Everything echoed more. Your footsteps, your breathing, everything just bounced around that space. I didn't love the second floor, but it was manageable. Just boring more than anything. The patrol up there took about 30 minutes. And then there was the third floor. God, I hated the third floor from day one. The third floor was the biggest space in the building. It took up the entire footprint. Just this massive open area with a ceiling that had to be 50 feet high. They had these industrial lights hanging way up there, but they were so far away they barely did anything. Everything had this sick yellow glow to it, like looking at the world through a dirty window. The third floor had these huge metal storage racks, bigger than the ones on the second floor. They went up maybe 20 feet. Most of them were completely empty. Just frames of metal creating these long corridors of nothing. The space was so big that you couldn't see from one end to the other. The racks and the bad lighting created all these shadows and blind spots. One entire wall was windows. Huge industrial windows that probably looked impressive from the outside, but they were covered in so much grime and dust that you could barely see through them. At night, they just reflected that ugly yellow light back at you, made it feel like you were trapped inside something. And above everything, running the entire length of the warehouse like some kind of spine, was the maintenance catwalk. I noticed it my first night on the job. This narrow metal walkway made of grating, hanging 40 feet above the floor. Rusty, old, pipes running along it. There were ladders at both ends of the warehouse that went up to it, industrial ladders bolted to the wall. My supervisor Jerry, nice guy, probably in his 50s, told me during my first week that the catwalk hadn't been used in years. Maintenance doesn't even go up there anymore, he said. Everything important is accessible from the ground now. If you hear any weird sounds, it's probably just the building settling. These old places make noise. Don't worry about it. I asked him if I ever needed to check the catwalk as part of my patrol. He laughed. God, no. Nobody's been up there in probably 10 years. The ladders are safe, building inspector checked them, but there's no reason to go up. Trust me, it's just rusty metal and spider webs. So, I never went up there, never had a reason to. But I thought about it sometimes. Late at night when I was doing my third floor patrol, I'd look up at that catwalk and wonder what it would be like up there. The thing about working overnight security is that it messes with your head after a while. I'm not making excuses, I'm just saying it's true. You're awake when everyone else is sleeping. You're alone for 8 hours in a building that's too big and too quiet. Your brain starts doing weird things. You see movement in your peripheral vision that isn't really there. You hear sounds that are probably just the building, pipes expanding and contracting, metal settling, but your brain wants to make them into footsteps or voices. It's not paranoia exactly. It's just your mind trying to stay alert when there's nothing actually happening. Making things interesting because it's bored? I'd been doing this job for about 2.5 years when March 15th happened. By then, I had the routine down perfectly. I could walk my route half asleep. Knew every corner, every sensor pad, every weird sound the building made. I thought I knew everything about that building. Looking back now, that was pretty stupid of me. It was a Thursday night, March 15th. I remember because it was 2 days after my birthday. I turned 28 on the Tuesday. My mom called, my little sister sent a text. Dave took me out for drinks on Wednesday night, so I was probably still a little hungover when I showed up for my shift Thursday. I clocked in at 11 p.m. like always. Said hi to Marcus, the evening shift guy. He just nodded at me, grabbed his stuff, and headed out. I got my gear. Maglite flashlight, heavy duty. Radio that connected to dispatch. Keys to all the locked areas. And my thermos of coffee that tasted like burnt dirt but had enough caffeine to keep me functional. The first floor went normally. Everything locked, everything quiet. I hit all the sensor pads. Second floor, same thing. Boring. Quiet. My footsteps echoing in that empty space. By the time I headed up to the third floor, it was around 3:15 in the morning. That dead, the zone of night where even the city outside goes quiet. No traffic sounds, no sirens in the distance, just silence. I pushed open the door to the third floor stairs and immediately felt it. That usual wrongness, but amplified somehow. The air felt heavier. The yellow light seemed dimmer than normal. Or maybe my eyes were just tired from the hangover. I started my patrol route, walking between the empty storage racks, my boots loud on the concrete floor. Hit the first sensor pad near the stairs, then headed toward the east side where the windows were. I was drinking coffee from my thermos when I found myself standing by those grimy windows. This wasn't technically part of my route, but I'd gotten into the habit of stopping there. Just looking out at nothing for a minute, the windows looked out over this narrow alley between my building and the one across from us, maybe 20 feet wide. The building on the other side was this old office high-rise, 10 or 12 stories tall. It had been abandoned for as long as I'd worked here. I'd asked Jerry about it once. He said it used to be some kind of corporate office building back in the 80s, but the company went under and the building had been sitting empty ever since. Broken windows, no lights, completely dead. I was staring at nothing, my coffee mug halfway to my mouth, just zoning out when I saw it. A light. One tiny pinprick of light deep inside one of the 10th floor windows of that dead building. I froze. Just stood there, watching this little light across the alley. It flashed. Then it flashed again. Then again. 3 short flashes. Pause. 3 more short flashes. Pause. 3 long flashes. My brain took a second to process what I was seeing. Then it clicked. S-O-S? I whispered to myself. And I actually laughed. Out loud, alone on the third floor at 3 in the morning, because of course, some kids had broken into the abandoned building across the alley and were messing with me, trying to freak, had out the security guard. It was actually kind of clever. I wasn't even mad, just annoyed. Like, really? You broke into a condemned building in the middle of the night to play pranks? But whatever, not my problem, not my building. I shook my head, took a sip of my terrible coffee, and moved away from the windows. Continued my patrol route. The sound of my footsteps seemed really loud that night. Every step echoed through that massive empty space. I checked the fire exit on the far wall. Locked. Checked the service elevator. Locked. Hit the sensor pad near the loading area. Everything secure. The patrol route made a huge loop around the entire third floor. It took me about 30 minutes to walk the whole thing. And eventually, my route brought me back to those windows. I told myself not to look. Just keep walking. Don't engage with whatever those kids were doing across the alley. But I looked anyway. The light was gone. Instead, someone was holding something up in the window of that abandoned building. A large piece of cardboard with writing on it, white letters painted or written in marker. I had to squint to read it across the alley. The letters were big, but crude. Behind you. Every single hair on my body stood up. It wasn't gradual. It was instant. My skin went cold. My stomach dropped. My hands started shaking so bad I almost dropped my coffee. I've never felt fear like that before in my life. Pure animal terror. The kind that doesn't go through your logical brain at all. My body was screaming at me to run, but I couldn't move. Just stood there staring at those two words. Behind you. Then my training kicked in. My hand went to my belt, fingers wrapping around my mag light. I spun around, clicking the light on, sweeping the beam across the third floor. "Who's there?" I yelled. My voice cracked. Too high, too scared. "This is private property. Show yourself." Nothing. Just endless rows of empty metal shelving. That sick yellow haze from the overhead lights. The electrical hum that suddenly seemed way too loud. I stood there, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. Listening, waiting, nothing moved. No sound except the lights buzzing and somewhere far away, a siren. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. It came out shaky. "Screw this," I muttered. I was furious now. The fear was morphing into anger. Some squatter in that abandoned building thought it was funny to terrorize the security guard. Well, screw them. I turned back to the window, ready to flip them off or shine my flashlight at them. There was a new sign. My anger evaporated. Not joke. On catwalk. Stay still. The words were messier this time, written faster. More urgent. Stay still. I didn't want to look up. Everything in me didn't want to look up at that catwalk hanging 40 feet above my head. But I had to. I tilted my head back slowly, raising my mag light, pointing the beam up at the rusty metal grating of the maintenance walkway. Nothing. Just pipes and shadows and old metal covered in dust. I moved the light slowly along the length of the catwalk, from one end to the other. Nothing. Nobody up there. I lowered my flashlight and looked back at the window. New sign. "He is watching you." I called police. The person holding the sign, I could see them better now. Just a dark silhouette in that dark window. No features. Just a shape, backlit by what must have been a phone light. "He is watching you." My mouth went completely dry. My hands were shaking so bad the maglite beam was trembling. This wasn't a prank. The person across the street believed what they were saying. They were serious. They'd called the police, because someone was up on that catwalk. Someone was watching me right now. But I just looked. There was nobody up there. My radio crackled to life so suddenly and so loud that I jumped. Nearly dropped my flashlight. "Unit 4, this is dispatch." Static. Then the dispatcher's voice again. Professional. Calm. "We have a 911 call reporting a 10 to 31. At your location. Caller states they have visual on an intruder. Can you confirm?" I tried to answer, tried to key the radio and respond, but my thumb wouldn't move. My whole body was locked up. Because I heard it, a sound that didn't belong. The soft metallic scrape of a boot on metal grating. From above me, from the catwalk, oh God. Someone is actually up there. I looked back at the window, desperate, terrified. The sign disappeared. For maybe 5 seconds, the window was empty. Then a new sign appeared. Ladder. Far wall. He's coming down. That broke the spell. I ran, didn't think, didn't plan, just pure panic. I sprinted through the aisles of empty shelving, my boots pounding on the concrete floor. I didn't look back. If I looked back and saw someone on that ladder, I think I would have just collapsed. The freight elevator was my only thought. Get to the elevator. Get off this floor. I reached it and slammed my thumb against the call button. Pressed it over and over. Behind me, I heard sirens. Getting louder. The police were almost here. I risked a glance back down the long aisle behind me. At the far end, near the wall with the ladder, a figure stood silhouetted against the loading bay doors. Tall, thin, just standing there, not moving, just watching. The elevator dinged. The heavy metal gates screeched open. I dove inside, stabbing at the button for the lobby. The gate started to close. Slowly. Way too slowly. The figure started moving. Not running. Just walking. This slow, steady walk toward me. Come on, come on, come on, I was chanting. The gate closed. The elevator shuddered. Started to descend. Through the metal grating, I watched the third floor disappear above me. I collapsed against the back wall, sliding down to sit on the floor, gasping for air. My whole body was shaking. But I was safe. Getting away. The elevator seemed to take forever. But eventually, it reached the ground floor. The gate rattled open. Bright lobby lights blinded me. I stumbled. Out, my legs weak. 2 police officers were standing there, hands on their weapons. Behind them, Jerry, looking pale and worried. Mark! Thank God! Jerry rushed toward me. Are you okay? Upstairs, I gasped. 3rd floor. He was on the catwalk. The person across the street saw him. They were holding up signs. The 2 cops exchanged a look. The older one lowered his hand from his weapon. Son, we've already cleared the building, he said gently. K9 unit did a full sweep. There's nobody up there. I stared at him. What? No, there was someone. I heard him. The person in the window warned me. Jerry put his hand on my shoulder. Mark, what person in the window? In the building across the alley. The abandoned office building. They were holding up signs. The younger cop shifted uncomfortably. Sir, that building isn't abandoned. What? The older cop spoke up. The building across the alley is the city's primary data storage annex. Has been for about 10 years now. Server rooms? IT infrastructure. It's a high-security facility. He paused, met my eyes. Pity. And there are no windows. Building code requirement for server farms. The entire structure was sealed when it was converted. It's just a solid block of polished black granite. My brain stopped working. No windows. I turned slowly, looking through the glass lobby doors at the building across the alley. Smooth, black, solid, not a single window, but I saw. We have something else we need to tell you, the younger cop said. The freight elevator. When's the last time you used it? Just now. I just wrote it down from the 3rd floor. Jerry's face had gone white. Mark, the freight elevator has been out of service since Tuesday. The motor burned out. It hasn't moved in 4 days. I looked at the elevator I'd just stepped out of. There was a yellow out of order sign taped to the gate. Old tape, dust on it. That's not possible. I just wrote it. The elevator didn't move, son, the older cop said, gently. You've been on the ground floor the whole time. No, I'd been on the 3rd floor. I'd seen the lights, the signs, the figure, except the elevator didn't work. There's one more thing, the younger cop said quietly. The 911 call. We traced it. It came from an emergency phone on the 3rd floor catwalk. Sensor pad number 12. He pointed up. It came from you, Mark. You called 911 on yourself. My mind went blank. Somehow, you went up on that catwalk and called for help, Jerry said softly. Then you came back down and forgot you'd done it. No, I never went up there. I was being warned by someone across the street. Except there was no one. No windows, no signs, and that elevator hadn't moved. And I'd called 911 on myself. I think you need to sit down, Jerry said. The next hour was a blur. The cops did another sweep. Jerry called someone. A crisis counselor, maybe. I sat in a chair, staring at nothing, trying to understand. Had I really gone up on the catwalk? Had everything been a hallucination? It all felt real. As real as anything I'd ever experienced. But the elevator hadn't moved. There were no windows. And I'd made that call. That was 6 months ago. I'm in a better place now. That's what everyone tells me. The company didn't fire me. Jerry went to bat for me. They put me on paid leave for 2 months while I got treatment. I spent those 2 months seeing a psychiatrist 3 times a week. Guy named Dr. Morrison. Nice guy. Patient. You experienced a dissociative episode, he explained. Your mind created a scenario to protect you from something. The stress of being alone, maybe an underlying anxiety disorder. But it felt real. That's the nature of these episodes. Your brain is incredibly good at creating reality. It blends the hallucination with your actual surroundings, makes it impossible to distinguish what's real and what isn't. And the 911 call? He hesitated. That's a fugue state. You performed complex actions without any conscious awareness. Climbing the ladder, using the phone, coming back down. Your mind was on autopilot, while your conscious awareness was experiencing the hallucination. I wanted to believe him, but I couldn't remember any of it. They put me on medication, antipsychotics, anti-anxiety meds, sleeping pills. The pills made me feel foggy, but Dr. Morrison said that would improve. When my leave was up, I came back to work, but things were different. Day shift, different building, never alone, always 2 other guards with me. I appreciated it, but I knew what it really meant. They didn't trust me anymore. Jerry still checks in on me sometimes. Calls every couple weeks. He's a good guy. But things are weird between us now. He saw me at my worst, and now he can't look at me the same way. I've been looking for a different job, something with normal hours where I'm around people, anything where I won't be alone. Because here's the thing I can't tell anyone. I don't think it was a hallucination. I know that sounds crazy. I know all the evidence says I had a mental break. The elevator, the building with no windows, the call I made without remembering. But something doesn't add up. I've done research. That building across the alley, it is what the cop said. High security server farm, no windows, sealed tight, but it wasn't always that way. I found old photos online from before the conversion. 10, 12 years ago, it was still an office building, and it had windows, lots of them. Normal office windows on every floor. They sealed them up in 2015, filled them in with granite panels. But they existed. Those windows were real. So when I was seeing those windows, was my brain accessing old memories? Had I seen photos before and my mind overlaid them on reality? Or was something else happening? And there's something else. I found an article from 8 years ago. A security guard at that same data storage annex, guy named Thomas Reed, 41 years old. He died, fell to his death from one of the server room levels. The investigation ruled it an accident. He'd been working alone on overnight maintenance, fell from a catwalk. But buried in the article was this. Before he fell, Thomas Reed had called 911, reported an intruder, told dispatch someone was watching him. The police searched the facility, found no one. Just Thomas Reed, dead. Accidental death? I think about Thomas Reed a lot. About him working alone at night, maybe seeing something, calling 911, terrified, and then falling. Did he climb up somewhere because he was running from something? Did he have an episode like me? Or did something actually happen to him? What if we both experienced the same thing, 8 years apart? And what if I'm lucky because I survived? I don't know. And that's what I can't stand. The not knowing. Dr. Morrison says this is part of recovery. That eventually I'll accept what happened and move on. But moving on requires knowing what actually happened. My girlfriend Sarah, I started dating her 2 months ago. She's been patient. I told her on our 3rd date about what happened. She didn't run away. She listened. Then she said, whether it was real or not doesn't really matter. Either way, you experienced something traumatic. You don't have to figure out the truth to heal from it. She's probably right. But I can't let it go. I drive past Warehouse 47 sometimes. Not on purpose. Every time I pass it, I look at that building across the alley. That smooth black granite block. And every time, just for a second, I swear I can see them. The windows, the faint outline of where they used to be. But then I blink and they're gone. Dr. Morrison would say that's my brain playing tricks. Pattern recognition gone wrong. He's probably right. But sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep, I wonder, if I went back there at 3:17 a.m. and stood in the right spot, would I see windows again? Would I see someone holding up signs? I'm never going to find out. I'm never going back to that building. But someone else is working that shift now. Some other security guard doing the same route I used to do. I hope they're okay. I hope nothing happens to them. But part of me wonders if it will. If whatever happened to me, whatever happened to Thomas Reed, if it's something about those buildings, and if it happens again, will anyone believe them? Or will they end up like me, in therapy, taking pills, trying to convince themselves it wasn't real? Or will they end up like Thomas Reed? I'm doing okay now. That's what I tell people. My parents, my sister, Sarah, Dr. Morrison. And it's mostly true. I take my medication, I go to therapy, I show up to work, I'm functional. But I'm not the same person I was before March 15th. I can't be alone in dark spaces anymore. I keep lights on in every room. Sarah asked me about it once, and I made a joke about hating the dark. She laughed, but I could tell she understood. I can't look at windows at night without feeling uneasy. My brain starts looking for movement, for lights, for signs. There are never any signs, just my reflection. And catwalks. God, I hate catwalks now. The office building where I work has this interior balcony that overlooks the lobby. I have to walk under it to get to the break room. Every single time, my heart rate spikes. My eyes go up automatically, checking to make sure no one's up there. There's never anyone there. But I check anyway, every time. Dr. Morrison says these are symptoms of PTSD, that my brain experienced something it interpreted as life-threatening, and now it's hypervigilant. He's probably right about that too. The worst part is that sometimes I'm not sure I'm actually better. Everyone says I am. Dr. Morrison, Jerry, my parents, Sarah, they all say I've made so much progress. But sometimes, when I'm alone, I hear things. In my apartment, late at night, footsteps above me, slow and heavy, walking back and forth. Now, I live on the 3rd floor. Didn't even think about it when I moved in. 3rd floor, just like the warehouse. There's an old lady who lives above me, Mrs. Chen, probably in her 80s, tiny woman with a cane. The footsteps I hear don't sound like Mrs. Chen. They sound heavier, someone pacing, back and forth. I know it's probably just the building settling, old pipes, sound traveling through walls. That's what it is, but sometimes the footsteps stop, right above my bedroom. And I lie there in the dark with all my lights on, listening, and I wonder if someone is up there, standing still, listening to me the way I'm listening to them. I haven't told Dr. Morrison about this. If I tell him, he'll increase my medication, maybe hospitalize me. So I don't say anything. I just lie there and listen. Last week, something happened. I was coming home from work, climbing the stairs to my apartment, got to my door and stopped. There was something on my doorknob, a piece of paper, folded and tucked under the handle. I stood there for a full minute, staring at it, not wanting to touch it. But eventually, I took it, unfolded it. Inside, written in messy handwriting with a black marker, were 3 words, "Still watching you." I looked up and down the hallway, no one there. I went inside, locked the door, put the paper on my kitchen table. It's still there. I haven't thrown it away, haven't told anyone. Because if I tell someone, they'll say it's a prank. Or maybe I wrote it myself during another fugue state. And maybe they're right. But the handwriting doesn't look like mine. And who would know about what happened to me to make that specific reference? Still watching you. The same phrasing from the signs. I don't know what to do with this. With this piece of paper that might be evidence of something or might be evidence that I'm getting worse. So I'm doing nothing. Going to work, taking my pills, going to therapy, pretending everything is fine, and listening to the footsteps at night. I know how this sounds. Like, I'm spiraling. Like I'm having another episode. Maybe I am. Or maybe something really did happen. Something I survived but don't understand. Something Thomas Reed didn't survive. And maybe it's not done with me yet. I don't know. And that's the worst part, the uncertainty. If my mind is broken, I have to live with the knowledge that my brain can turn against me at any moment. That reality itself isn't reliable. But if something real happened, if there's something in those buildings that can make people see things and do things and fall from high places, then the world is more dangerous than I thought. I don't know which is worse. So I'm just existing in this space between the 2 possibilities. Taking my medication, going to therapy, pretending I'm getting better, and waiting. I'm not sure what I'm waiting for. Another sign maybe, more evidence. Something that will tell me the truth. Or maybe I'm waiting for nothing. maybe this is just my life now. Uncertainty and hypervigilance and sleeping with the lights on. Maybe that's the real damage. Not the event itself, but the not knowing. The doubt that never goes away. Sarah asked me yesterday if I thought I'd ever be comfortable working nights again. I told her no. Absolutely not. Never again. And I meant it. Whatever happened on March 15th, whether it was real or imagined, whether I'm crazy or the world is stranger than we think, I know one thing. I'm never working alone at night again. I'm never standing on a third floor at 3 a.m. looking out windows at dark buildings. Because even if it was all in my head, my brain did that to me once. It could do it again. And next time, I might not survive. So, that's my story. That's what happened 6 months ago, or what I think happened, or what everyone else thinks happened. I'm still trying to figure it out. And if you work overnight security, if you're ever alone in a big empty building at 3 in the morning, do me a favor, don't look out the windows. Don't trust what you see. And if you hear footsteps above you, don't look up. Just leave. Call someone. Don't try to figure it out. Because whether it's real or not, whether it's in your head or in the world, it doesn't matter. Either way, it can hurt you. I learned that the hard way, and I'm one of the lucky ones. I survived to tell you about it. Thomas Reed wasn't so lucky, and whoever's working my old shift right now, I just hope they never have to find out which one of us was right. Because honestly, I still don't know, and maybe I never will.